Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Good to Know Shreveport Bossier. This is a podcast showcasing all the good things happening in our community. My name is Jeff Bimefor. Over here to my right, co-host Paul Reeser. He's the big shot around town, member of the Committee of 100. And every podcast we focus on topics and initiatives that have a positive impact on our community. We've got new episodes every other Wednesday. And you can find Good to Know wherever you listen to your podcasts. And as always, Paul, the honor to introduce our new guest is yours.
Well, thank you very much. And it is an honor. And you called me a big shot. I feel a little more confident about being a big shot because Dr. Laura Cassidy has decided to be our first ever second guest.
Repeat.
Our first ever repeat guest. She's come back to see us again. And Dr. Laura Cassidy is the founder and the board chair for the Louisiana Key Academy. And if you have kids or know anyone that does, you definitely want to stay tuned to this podcast because it's important information that Dr. Cassidy has to share with us. And we're just happy to have you back. Thanks for coming back, Laura. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we had you on several months ago when we were in our temporary digs when we were building our new studio and everything. So
it was a Zoom call.
That's right. And at the time, you were kind of just getting into creating this Key Academy in Caddo Parish. And you've done this in other places before. So just to get started, explain to us what the Key Academy is.
So Louisiana Key Academy is a charter school, which means it's tuition free for students with dyslexia. Those are kids that are struggling to read, learning to read, they have terrible spelling, and basically it's a place where they can come and have trained teachers that know how to help them access the language and the reading skills and all the things they need to be successful as a student.
Yeah, because that's the baseline. If you can't grasp that, then you can't really move on.
Right, and those skills are acquired early. And so it's really important if your child's struggling to learn how to read, learn the alphabet, you know, you listen to them read and they're like humming and whatever it is.
Hemming and hawing. She sounds like me. I'm rubbing off on her.
Yeah, those are important signs.
So, but as a parent though, you are the parent of a dyslexic child.
Yes.
But you pick up on that stuff early, right?
Yes. Yes. So we know that they can. These are smart kids. They'll often have speech delay, not always, but they'll have a hard time learning the alphabet, or they'll know it one day and they won't know it the next day. Again, when they go to school, all the other kids, say in first grade, are starting to read and they're not reading, or they're not reading like their peers are. Again, they may know a word, but then they don't know it the next day, and they're not connecting the sounds with the alphabet. So say dog, you know, they don't know to go dog. So those are important clues.
Well, something that's really interesting is, as I was researching this a little bit, aren't you proud of me, Jeff?
I'm surprised.
You know, dyslexia is very much misunderstood. I always thought, oh, they just get their words backwards, but it's a lot more than that. And also, if you identify it early, how much difference it makes in the education of the child.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. One, they're smart kids, so this problem with learning to read has nothing to do with anything else. They can think and reason well. And so you're sort of baffled, like, why?
Yeah, there's a smart kid.
Right, so that's why it's called this unexpected difficulty in reading. And people say, oh, just wait, oh, just they're a boy, or, you know, etc. But no, it's a real entity and it's common, and so it's helping people understand what it is, and it's not just flipping the letters, but it is really attaching the sounds to the squiggly lines that we call the alphabet.
We should probably give a little bit of your background here at this point. You are quite an accomplished doctor yourself. worked in the breast cancer field, I guess, and married to Senator Bill Cassidy, who was also a doctor. You guys have an incredible family. And so was it easier as doctors for y'all to pick up on this, or is this something that any parent picks up on?
So I was fortunate enough to team up with the leading scientists, which are medical doctors at Yale Medical School, who have published the most work and done the most research on dyslexia. And so like the textbooks for pediatrics, you know, it's all in the literature, the findings from the Shawitzes. And so I do think having the medical background helped. And so my job, as I see it, since I'm not an educator, is to help bring that science, like I would with any medical entity, into, okay, they're in the classroom, this is where they have the issues, so what makes sense with the science that we know?
Okay.
Well, I know you're smart, like Jeff says. Not super smart because you're back here twice, but and very accomplished.
And I'm here every week. What does that say about me?
We're in trouble. But, you know, to realize how personal it was, I was looking at your website, the Louisiana Key Academy website, and your quote says, "I started Louisiana Key Academy with another mom of a dyslexic child. We started the school out of frustrations, disbelief, and a desire to change the options for other children." So it's very, very personal to you, right?
Yeah, so so both of our kids, and mine in particular, you know, it was like, again, like parents know, like, why? I know she's smart, and everybody has an opinion, right?
Sure.
Whether it makes sense or not, they all have their opinion. And it was like, oh, it's going to happen, it's going to happen, they're going to learn to read. But, you know, it wasn't. And so it took, you know, that's the whole point, like you were talking about, getting to it early. Knowing that they're dyslexic, and then getting them to the teachers that are trained with the right curriculum, because they can learn to read. They do learn to read. They're always going to read a little bit slower. Their spelling's atrocious. But, you know, in this day and age, they need the self-esteem. They know if they're smart. Then as they get the foundations, they also add the technology pieces, which have text to speech, speech to text, you know, Grammarly, and so they can be successful like many dyslexics are. Charles Schwab, Whoopi Goldberg, you know, the list goes on.
Einstein, Steve Jobs.
Yeah. So we just want that, because it's so common for kids that wouldn't normally get an opportunity in a public school, which is what we are, a charter public school. And because I believe it's a workforce issue, and so it's a personal issue. Like, it's important for my self-esteem for the dyslexic. It's important for their parents, but it's so important for the community.
Sure.
Because these are people that are bright, that can help with creating jobs, working jobs.
Well, imagine it's devastating for the kids who can't read early on. They probably start to fall behind really quickly. Like, I can't read, people start to make fun of them, and these days bullying is getting worse and worse. And so what's happening to the kids that they can't read and they just think they're dumb, or everyone tells them they're dumb, when really they just have this inability to read the way everybody else does.
Right, and that's, I think, is really important. So thank you for saying that, because if you look at the options, if the child's not ever told they're dyslexic and they just go through school struggling, and the parent doesn't know why they're struggling, then they're more likely to drop out of school, not to go to college for sure, not to finish high school, and even there's a chance of incarceration in prison. As opposed to, oh, I'm smart, I'm struggling, this is what I need, this is what, you know, I'm good at, and I'm going to be able to do what I want to do. It's a huge game changer.
How do the kids take to that, the dyslexic children, when you point out to them what the problem is? I mean, are they relieved, or they jump into the curriculum with enthusiasm? How do they respond?
Yeah, well, the kids at our schools, are relieved. And I think there's enough data to show that kids are relieved because, again, they're smart, and you know, kids are very intuitive, right? They know what the teacher may be thinking, or their parents may be thinking, oh, I'm not working hard enough, or I'm not that smart. And so it's a huge relief. Like, okay, there's a name for the reason I'm struggling, and again, I have the ability to fulfill my dreams. And then at our schools, I think it's great because the kids can see other kids and they're like, oh, you know, Mary or Rhonda or Steve or whatever, they're smart, but they have dyslexia too. So it just gives them a different perspective.
Yeah. Take us through the timeline here. You started your first school in Baton Rouge, I guess, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
10 years ago, we're celebrating our 10th year. Baton Rouge is K through 8th grade and is adding the high school in August.
Great.
We're starting with the 9th grade and we'll go on from there. And then a year ago, we opened a school in Covington for the North Shore area, which actually has kids that come from the New Orleans area, which just shows you that the parents will drive. And then this year, this August, we're in the building now, so to speak. We'll start the school here in Caddo for Caddo, but also the surrounding parishes.
And so where's the physical plant here?
So it's 261 Arthur Avenue. It's the old Arthur Circle School, but it's on Arthur Avenue. I like that.
Well, I remember when you were here before, you were like, well, we think we're going to secure a facility, and that's why we're excited to have you back, because it's actually secured. There's a principal on site now, so people can go and visit. Is that correct?
Yes. So Pam Barker is our principal, homebred, an educator here in the Shreveport area. She is there on site every day, and every Wednesday we have either an open house on site or a virtual open house, or Wednesday or any day if you want to sign up for a tour, that's available as well. So we are there, and I think it's a time and a place to come and learn more about what dyslexia is, see the school, ask questions.
And if folks want to sign up for these tours, how do they do that?
Yeah, so our website is lkaschools.com, and the website has everything, and also the phone number, so you can either call it or make it the appointment on the internet.
Okay, say the address again.
LKA, Louisiana Key Academy, so lkaschools.com, and we have an open house tomorrow from noon to 5. So if you heard, I don't know if
every Wednesday.
Yeah,
every
Wednesday.
Yeah, every Wednesday, virtual or open or a tour.
Okay. And how's the response been so far here?
Well, the Shreveport area has been wonderful. I mean, we've raised money. We have community supports with businesses, which has been great. And now we have parents that are coming out, going through the application process. It's just getting the word out.
So that's what I'm saying. The word is getting out and people are applying.
It is. I just think people need to understand, my smart kids struggling, don't delay. Don't say, like, I'll see how they do next year. I'll see how they do next month.
And that's something you provide is testing, right? So if someone thinks, no matter if they live in Shreveport, Bossier, or around, no matter if they're used to going to high-end private schools or public schools like me and Jeff, I don't know where you went to school. You probably went to Harvard. But is this for anybody to apply? And then do they come in? How do they get tested to see if they even have dyslexia?
Yeah, so on the website, there's a screening process which starts the whole process. And if you have any questions, you can call Pam. But you start the screening process, and if it looks like you're at risk for dyslexia, then we do the testing for free. You don't have to go elsewhere. You just go through this process, and we will do that testing.
Which free is a big deal, because what I understand in the past, it's been very expensive. Yes,
it can cost thousands, and usually costs thousands of dollars. And and we knew that was an obstacle, so that's why we provide that.
That's awesome.
I mean, that's pretty fantastic. I can't imagine people that might even think they're having this problem to turn that service down, right?
Is there a certain stigma about it? What do you think it is that slows people down from getting tested, from considering this might be an issue?
Oh, I think it definitely has a stigma. I mean, when my child was young, and it was the tone they said the word dyslexia, and but that's so old school. Like we now,
right.
and that's why it's so important. We know all these smart people, and it has nothing to do with intelligence, and so it's not going to go away. So you got to embrace it, and you know, a lot of people just talk about how it helps them develop perseverance. They have this incredible creativity. So it's understanding what it is so that you get the skills to learn how to read when you're young, but that you also then own it and take your creativity and your other strengths and go forward.
So I'm sure this isn't an inexpensive process. What's the advantage of creating a completely separate school as opposed to just adding programs to a traditional school?
That's a great question. You have good
come
questions.
That's the first time anyone's ever said that
Write that down.
on this
Thank
show.
you very much. All right, we can close.
Repeat guest, another first.
So because people do wonder, like, is this some kind of weird school? But we're like a totally normal school.
It's like that old TV show Weird Science, right? I don't know if you remember that, and I'm sure you probably went there.
But we have to follow, you know, the state standards. So we have every subject. We have ancillary things like art and PE and sports. And so, nice. But what it does is we're taking what was the National Reading Panel published, and we're giving the kids 90 minutes in small groups for that reading instruction. And they get 90 minutes of math because math has a lot of language. So you're not getting pulled out where sometimes that's awkward for kids. You know, you're surrounded with other kids, and you don't have to go to a tutor after school. You know, you go to school, you get what you need, you learn, and you're moving forward in your education, and then after school you can go have fun. You know, as opposed to having to go to a tutor, which kids do, and that's one, expensive, and two, especially when the younger kids, that's a lot.
And I imagine there's some economy of scale, I guess, when instead of having to just have a teacher or a room for 2 kids, then you have a whole classroom where it's completely, you're able to put all the, what am I trying to say? You're using all your resources on a large group instead of just small groups. Right,
so it makes it feasible because of the scale factor. Yes, it's still expensive, but it's important because, again, dyslexia is so common, and the outcome can be so devastating. There has to be a solution for everybody, not just families with extra income. So this is the solution for every family, for if you have a dyslexic child, that you get what your child needs and they can be incredibly successful.
So when you have a child that's dyslexic and you're starting to pick up on some of this, what's the earliest age that you start noticing some of these things that the child might be having this problem or this struggle?
So in kindergarten, we can we have a kindergarten now. We added a kindergarten. Okay. We cannot test till the end of kindergarten, but we have a pretty good idea in kindergarten because, you know, it's not like you go in first grade and you just start reading. You've acquired that oral language. You're learning that alphabet. The child's been talking since 2 years of age. So you're, again, taking that spoken word, and then the next is to match it to the letters, which you start doing with the alphabet and some simple books in kindergarten. So if it's not there, then in first grade, we already know the kids are behind. We have that published data. So certainly kindergarten is when we can start saying, we really want to test this child at the end of kindergarten, and we really want to give them a rich kindergarten experience so that when they enter first grade, they're getting everything they need and they're, you know, closing that gap.
I mean, this might be a dumb question, but does the dyslexia show up in the spoken word just in itself, or does it got to be the spoken word matched with the written word?
So see, that's a great question.
One for you too. This is like the best show ever. We both got one.
So I try not to get too complicated because the biggest thing people know is they have trouble learning how to read and spelling's awful. But if you think about it, it's all connected in the brain. You're going from the print to what it means, but then the reverse is you're taking what's in your brain, the print, and speaking it. So if they're nervous, you could probably guess some people that are famous, but they will come out with a mispronunciation. So that's very common. So yes, we see it in the speech, and so what'll happen are two things. One, people will be afraid to read out loud or speak extemporaneously because they might get it wrong. And two, if they're out, they will want, you know, notes and to rehearse. But yes.
Okay.
Well, you were talking about research that you'd done earlier and didn't want to get too scientific. I understand, didn't want to go over mine or Jeff's head. That happens all the time. So go for it. Well, he's tall. But one thing, I think I heard that you did a research where you went and talked to prisoners and found, because you talked about earlier how it could lead to incarceration. And the first time I heard that, I was like, that seems kind of weird. But you spoke with prisoners. So to bring around the seriousness of this, I mean, loving our kids and wanting to make sure our kids get the best, that's one thing. That's awesome and important. But also just for the for people that worry about how much this costs, I would think that if it leads to incarceration, that cost is significantly more expensive than early education.
Yes. Yes. And so, you know.
You see what I did there,
No,
Jeff?
you lost me there. Seriously.
Explain it, Dr. Laura.
So again, you know, say you have a child whose parents may be split up, it may be a single parent, and the child is dyslexic and they are struggling at school. And the school says, you know, gives no real reason for why the child is struggling, but maybe hints that maybe they're just not that bright. So a kid is, why do you keep repeating to get beaten up day after day after school? So in the prison study, and the reason that I did the study was because I was desperate to try to call attention. You know, if they're not going to listen to the science alone, maybe if I show the bad outcomes in the prison. And we found that half of the prisoners that we tested are dyslexic. Now, when we talked to them further, like you said, they dropped out in not only high school, they dropped out in middle school because they're smart. And again, if you're smart, you're not going to keep going to a place that makes you feel terrible. And the cost of incarceration, you know, in a year for one prisoner is definitely more than the cost of what we're doing for a whole school. And so it's hard for allocation of resources, but it does seem to touch people in a way of quite like, this is not right, that we have all these prisoners, you know, because the majority of the prisoners can't read for various reasons. About 80% of them, if you just look across an average, would be about 80%. And probably half of those would be dyslexic. Because it's hard to navigate life if you cannot read. And again, they're bright, but they're not reading. And no one's telling them why, and no one's helping them.
See, now I get it. Then when I got her answer, then I understood your question.
Well, thank you, Dr. Cassidy, for helping us out there.
So, why? Obviously, you had a child that had this. What spurred you to create? I mean, this is a big step from having a child with the problem to creating schools like you've done. Yeah.
Well, again, it just doesn't seem fair. You know, our daughter was blessed that we had the money and the resources and the background to get her what she needs and needed. But I think about all these other children who don't have that, and I don't think that any system should be able to dismantle your future. And for severe dyslexics, without any help, moderate to severe, you're really changing the trajectory of their life if they don't get what they need in school. And that just doesn't seem right. And again, working with the Shawitzes, because they publish so many papers and they're so well versed on the science, that gave me the foundation. And when people thought I was crazy, they were always there by my side. You know, they're in the National Academy of Science. They're just not like, you know, anybody. So it's not like I'm making this up. And so when you see it, and as a doctor, seeing that data and the science, it's like, we have to do something. Because if my daughter was with another family, I don't know where she would be. I don't think she would have gone on the trajectory. And that's just, you know, sobering.
It is. I mean, I think it's you're to be commended for doing what you're doing. I mean, I guess when I was a kid, this is not anything I ever even knew about or was unaware of, and to hear that it's just kind of widespread, and
I think so
finally
many
some
of
people
us
are doing something about it. It's pretty cool.
So many of us would just be like, "Oh, phew, I got my kid through it. Thank goodness. All right, let's get her through college and let's get on with life." And you said, wow, we have an opportunity here to help so many people that didn't have the opportunity our child did, and that's very commendable.
Well, and I think, you know, when we were growing up, school was different, right? And so you could have dyslexia and you could get through it. You could be the class clown, you could be the greatest athlete. The rigor of the academics and the standardized testing were different. Nowadays, it'll derail you.
Wow.
So.
Yeah. Well, so what problems are you facing now getting this school off the ground here?
Just the word out, getting the word out, and helping people understand. Like you said, it shouldn't be a stigma. It shouldn't be something you're embarrassed about. You're in great company. There's so many brilliant dyslexics, and again, if you can tap into your strengths, your creativity, I mean, we need entrepreneurs, and we especially need entrepreneurs in Louisiana, and these kids are well suited for that. So it's learning more about dyslexia, talking to others, encouraging them to at least come and give us a look, learn some more.
So if you have kids, like I said earlier, if you have kids or know someone that does, you live in Shreveport, Bossier area, Caddo, just where
DeSoto,
else? DeSoto, anywhere
Webster
around.
Parish.
If you can drive, ride, or walk to get there, take the opportunity, I guess, and go to your website and start doing the easy early tests.
Right, ask questions.
We got about a minute left here, so again, give us all your where you're located, your web address, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we're at 261 Arthur Avenue, which is in the Broadmoor neighborhood. It's a lovely neighborhood. Our website is lkaschools.com. And if you go to our website, you'll see the phone number for Pam, who's the principal. And again, every Wednesday we have an open house, virtual or in person. We have tours every Wednesday, or you could have a tour any day.
Okay. Is there a limit to the number of kids you accept?
Yes, yes.
I mean, so get there early, right?
What are the grades that you
Yes,
accept
we'll have K through 4th grade, and then every year we'll add a grade till we're through K through 8th grade.
Okay.
But yes.
Yeah, so if the parents out there think the problem's for their kids, they need to get in touch with you.
Right. I'm concerned there'll be a rush like at the last minute, and so if you don't say like I'm going on vacation and I'll look at it at the end of the summer, it'd be better to do it now.
Okay. All right.
Excellent.
I think that's going to wrap it up. Again, our first repeat visit here, and it was a pleasure visiting with you again.
I thank y'all both.
I mean, I think down the road it'd be worth doing this one more time.
Oh, good. I'll come back.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Laura Cassidy, the Louisiana Key Academy, dealing with the problem of dyslexia. If you think your child might have that problem, this is the person to get in touch with, or at least go to the website, right?
Yes.
And that'll get you started. All right, again, thanks for joining us for this podcast of Good to Know Shreveport-Bossier, brought to you by the Committee of 100 and KTBS Television. Tell everybody about the podcast, new content every other Wednesday. And for more information, check us out at goodtoknowsb.com. So have a great day. And as always, this is Good to Know. See ya.